Hello and welcome to Parcel. This short instructional video will walk us through how to set up and edit a default language library in Parcel. As always, everything starts from our website, www.parcelplatform.com. Log in with your username and password. And you can access the default language libraries underneath the company profile, underneath the main menu, and then selecting the default language option. From there, we'll want to select which language library we want to work with. If we don't already have a language library set up, you can select a language library that's as close as possible to the one that you want to work with. You are, of course, going to want to make sure that you have the right module. If you're working with a Phase 1, you need to select a Phase 1. If you're working with a PCA, you need to select PCA. From there, we can assign which template structure we'd like to work with that library. And then we can copy that library into a new library that we can edit simply by clicking copy. For today's purposes, we will use our training library here as an example. Now the library has a few tools across the top here. The first is if you wanted to generate a PDF of this library in case you needed to print it out, redline, mark it up. You can actually delete all of the language out of this library and start from scratch. You can copy this library from another library. You can rename this library, or as I showed you just a moment ago, you can copy this language into a new library that you can rename and edit. So for instance, if this was your default library and you wanted to create a library specific to one particular client or one particular region, you can do that without affecting the base default library. The next is the color-coded legend here across the bottom, the dark red being the hard-coded language, the pink being the language included upon project setup, orange instructions, blue being sample, and the white being the option to insert. Now the hard-coded language here in the dark red is not an option that you will have. This is something you would have to come to your implementation specialist or Parcel support. The hard-coded language becomes part of the template and is not editable. So that is the legal language or other type of language that you do not want to have anybody in your company have access to edit. That is something we can do for you. The language that's included upon project setup is simply that. It's language that you want to automatically be in the report as soon as it's ordered. That being the legal language, the reliance. It is editable, but it is language that probably doesn't change very often in the report, so you want it to be there automatically. The instructional language you see in the orange text boxes here, the instructional language will be available whenever anybody is viewing that report within Parcel, but it does not become part of the final deliverable. Sample language isn't used all that often, to be honest, but the options here are used quite a bit. And those are when you run into common situations. For instance, yes, there are USTs, no, there aren't USTs. The options really help speed up the report writing time for those redundant sections of the report. So we're starting off here with the language library that already has some information in it. We can edit any of the sections that are already there. You can, of course, delete out the sections entirely or just an individual option. You can reorder the options as they appear, more for aesthetic purposes than anything. Let me go ahead and delete out this blank field here. To add additional option or options to a particular section, all you need to do is select how many and then click the Add button. Both the existing options and the new options will open up in edit mode. So we'll scroll down here to the new option. And then we'll start to set up this particular option. The first is to select the category. Again, whether you want it to be instructional text or optional text. Now, optional text can be simply that, whether it's yes USTs, no USTs. You'd want to create a few words for a keyword that we can utilize later on using Parcel Writer. If it is just language that's going to be pre-populated, we want to select yes, I would like it included upon project setup. From there, you can freehand type, you can cut and paste from another document. I would recommend using this paste icon if you are pasting in from another document, just to make sure you're not bringing any background code there with you. You do have a lot of the options you would with a typical Word document as far as bolding, italicizing, underlining. You can add bullets, you can change the color of the font, whatever you'd like to do. From here, once you're done, you want to check your spelling and save your changes, and you just added a section that will be populated upon project setup. Now, if we want to make any edits, of course, click the edit button, opens everything up there for you, and you can start again. Now, any instructional text that you edit and any optional text that you edit, those changes will become live even for live jobs. So if I was in here and I happened to change the instructional text for section 2.2, if one of my colleagues was working in section 2.2, as soon as their screen refreshed, they would see the change to the instructional language. The same goes for the optional language. If I was to add an additional option here, that same colleague working in section 2.2, as soon as they refresh their screen, they would see those additional optional sections. Now the sections in pink, the sections that are included upon project setup, are just that. If I was to make an edit here to one of those sections, that would not affect the live job that my colleague is working on. Similar to the hard-coded language, if I was to ask parcel support to make a change to that, that would not be automatically updated in any live jobs either, unless I specifically ask them to do that. The last thing to take into account here is when you are working with the default language, please take advantage of the variables we have in the variable replacer section of our report. Variable replacer will be talked about here on a separate video, but it is a very good way to include these variables when writing a Phase 1 report. Really helps keep the error reduction and consistency across the report itself. Any additional questions on how to manipulate a default language library, please contact our parcel support group at the information listed here. Thank you very much, and have a great day.